to PAP Poetry, Public Access. Tonight's two poets in berets and earrings are Robin Messing and Maureen Owen. Maureen Owen will start reading.
Okay, I'm going to begin reading from a manuscript titled Letters to Ted, which is preceded by two quotes from Colette. One, I belong to a country I have abandoned. Colette. And I am reminded of Colette on the train that morning, asking herself, if you have left half of yourself behind, does that mean you have lost 50% of your original value? For years I thought circa was a place, and when I read the word followed by its dates, circa 1903, circa 1812, I assumed these were just times events occurred in circa, and I was amazed continually that so much had happened in one tiny pinpoint of geography, and to myself I said, it must be in France. Hand scroll with ink and colors on silk. In plate 44, Su Wu and Li Ling are shown parting. I cannot tell if it is Su Wu leaning on his staff and Li Ling with sword and top-knot decoration, or Li Ling in fur-lined robes and Su Wu with straw tucked under his belt. Both faces portray agony and hysteria. They have been together in captivity for 20 years. Now Su is unable to persuade Li to return home with him. Both are drenched in grief. Is it the fault of the emperor or the Xingnu nomads? The thick footwear bumpy with wadding? There is nothing in the landscape to console them. No brewer's weeping spruce or pine, not a single make of sparrow. The seals of later collectors do not decorate the borders. Only space. Whole lives lived to embody one theme. Leaping to adjust a bolt on the wagon chung, while his tractor continued on across the field riderless, breaking his wife's arm haying and her nose by accident when he playfully bounced frozen cow pies off the side of the barn, 7 stitches in his own skull from rising suddenly while still underneath the massive combine, too dangerous to work with, friends terrified to help, smashed by swinging boards, ramming trailers, knocked from hay racks by the power of his bale toss, Rippy backing over oil barrels. Having made the choice, you simply live accordingly. Exterior lid of a box, gold lacquer and lead adventure and lacquer on black lacquered wood. The painter seeks the life of the bamboo, not the form.
I'm going to start out with a snow poem. It's called Wrapped Up in It. I break through it with the length of my black wool coat, and monk-like attention I give to moving. Tires, shovels, neighbors saying, how you doing? It being midnight, creatures are stirring. Cats curled onto windowsills, roll up their glassy green eyes. To make something of it, to pull this night out of its silk top hat and say, ta-da, there it is. The next one is a hot poem, a summer poem. It's so hot that a young boy in yellow pants sucks on an orange section. 2 grimy men swig whiskey from clear plastic cups and talk on an IRT train seat. Immigrant women, their silver needles droning over black singers in Brooklyn sweatshops. In a restaurant, I scream, 2 fried over easy and waiter Chinese black tea. Even the bees are coupling, piggyback in the air. And one more, it's called Shadows. It was inspired by some drawings that a painter friend of mine did. I stand here, a swift young wind behind the house, rasps like old cats who hiss and bitch about the past. I stand here, the subject of an ordinary story, the object, whose long naked shadows found stretched out over ponds move clockwise with the sun. A fish pops up, splashes and shimmies all over it, spits a stream of local seawater right in my opened eye. At night, when New York darkens, the waters turn opaque black, like the window of the corner luncheonette, closed. People become themselves under neon, waiting for slippery buses to glide up to their yellow lines.
Yellow yo-yos. For years, I was an outlaw, wanted by the law in Frisco, married to one man, living with another, children, it seemed, all over the place. Then I went straight. Caesar and Brutus, Anthony and Cleopatra, Abbott and Costello, Lewis and Clark, Damien and Pythias, Burns and Allen, you and me, kid, my angel in the morning. I can hardly see for the golden feathers all over the bed. This is an autumn poem. O alkaline sap of the ash, gone blue in autumn, purple in tone, red as sweet gum, sumac and dogwood, oak and poplar, a plum and birch and scarlet, tulip tree and willow bright yellow, beech, mahogany and prune vermilion, oh racy sassafras, redbud, blueberry in flame with rose and orange. Bounce off these windshields as we go, laying rubber past old high schools, yelling, dactyl, cistina, iambic pentameter, at the top of our lungs, crashing through drifts of ginkgo leaves. There are times when you must throw yourself overboard in order to survive. The salty tourmaline moon and the stars, they are lovely and cannot be entered by reason or rondel. Okay, one more. The title of this is a quote from Jane Bowles. Dearest Bupple, I have no opinions, really. Scilla, blue-striped violets, narcissus, crocus, forsythia, a bush outside my window covered with petite white petals. Just this morning as I lifted my head from the pillow, Patrick was saying, Houdini walked through a brick wall every day. When you know you are in for it, not even statistics are a consolation. Finally, on the eve of the ship's party, she was asked to sing, but they had run headlong into a terrible squall. The piano was tied to the stage to keep it from flying off, and they gave her a rope to hold onto so she wouldn't fall down. Abandoned, like Janae, at the hands of the customs officials, who welcomed him with so much attention and then shoved him off. Friends can't wait to tell you what a botch you've made of things. Wishy-washy, spineless, can't make a decision, innocent mealyhead. Don't you have any opinions, they ask? A man we never saw before comes by to tell us our barn and property are worthless. He wouldn't even tear the barn down for wood, he says. Also, the community is falling apart, and the neighboring towns too, and he is appalled by it. You'll notice the main beams are completely rotted, and the roof, well, there simply is no roof. It's so far gone. He glances with disdain on the crumbling stone wall. In the vulnerable aftermath of dinner, she has indicated the 5 of Swords, a tremendous struggle where we stand, exhausted, leaning on flexed and sagging knees, while our enemies rush towards the edge of the card. Triumph is relative, Lao Tzu warns from his cloud. Success and failure are the same disease. Skinny beard and robes blown sideways by a continuous wind. After everyone died, his life began to take on the attributes of a recluse. He would only go in to pick up his mail every 2 or 3 months, leave town with all the windows open, letters swooping into wheat and rye fields, free samples bowling into the ditches.
Now I'm going to read a couple of love poems, too. The first one is called The Drifters. The drifters sing up on the roof. The wind whips my hair, only sky and air around us. I imagine other people on New York rooftops watching as you pull off my black shirt, just white skin, my white summer pants, nipples hard in your hands, on our knees wide in your hair, my flat hand pressing your mouth closer. And the next one's called Take 5. What about breakfast? A grapefruit, scrambled eggs and fried bananas on blue plates. In the park, a male pigeon spreads white-tipped wings, flies up to icy branch. I'll take a picture. Sunday, you lie out watching TV, entranced in a fantasy movie. A small dog nuzzles in the bend behind your knee. I catch you between my legs. The twin bed splits down the center when I leap like a wild mare. Your face, ruddy and flushed, how becoming.
This is titled Ode to Asexuality. The second I get you on the couch, the kids come back. We missed the bus, they say. I must have eaten 40 ears of corn, enraptured out of my mind, there in the broom grass and moonlight, drooling butter, spilling salt. There was this marvelous rhythm. He would say something, then I would say something, then he would say something. Who knows how much beer I drank, trying to keep up with him. If you could have seen the night sky, a big pair of rhinestone denims, certain exceptional pinpoints of light that flew from the hood of his car. Husks and flames, him on his elbow, and silver, silver playing. Oh, manic falsettos above the radio static. Oh, blazing foreheads. Oh, simple, simple desires, like the great bonfires of Europe, as if sexual fulfillment were a kind of paradise. That late hour in the dead of winter, when Clay threw his arms around an entire length of stovepipe and began to polka madly with the section he had wrenched free. Downstairs, Bud awoke to soot and ashes settling on his quilt. Fire, he yelled into the thick, hot smoke, taking the stairs 3 at a time. Fire! He thought that warm tin was a woman, Bud said. I had to pry him off of it. Oh, pry me loose. I want to roll where dark sand blows in from Chasma Boreal and all across the 200-kilometer wide delta of continuous dunes that become irregular and mottled to the south.
Okay, now I'm going to read from a prose piece I've been working on. It's a short story. I'm just going to read a couple of pages. And it's called A Mattress. He's going to sell mattresses. He even dreamed of them last night, turning corners, flying after him. Simmons, Posturepedic, springs popping out, quick steel coming for his face. He thought about mattresses during the whole trip back from Ohio, all the beds he'd slept in, every bed, Jesus, even that single shaky coffin at his mother's house, the brown mahogany headboard, and that penknife scratch he would run his finger along before going off to sleep. He remembers how he felt so alone in that bed, and at the same time a prince of darkness, watching the passing car lights from Flatbush Avenue whiz across his yellowed walls, and the buckle in the linoleum like the ball in his throat. He swallows. Ohio. He faces the mirror and picks at his mustache, smooths it out between thumb and forefinger. Eyes so dark, almost black, he stares at himself closely, looms in closer until he can see the open pores of his face. Open. Did he leave the door open last night, first night in this cheaply furnished room, first night back in Brooklyn? Did I leave it open? The day opens, he yawns long and slow like a child who wants to stay in bed today, who doesn't want to go to school. I'll check the door. He stumbles into the hall, follows its length in the dark, his bare feet cold against the wood floor. The lock turns once and clicks softly into the cylinder. There, he had forgotten. He leans his back against the door, closes his eyes, crosses his arms around his cold, hairy chest. Chilled bumps erupt on his skin, breathing shallow. Monday, 1 week before the mattresses. I'll need a car. They'll have to lease a car for me to make it to all the stores. Hell, what do they think I'm going to huff it on the subway from the Bronx to Brooklyn, then to Queens? Traffic in New York, man, it's crazy. I'm bound to get killed right off. Jesus. At least it pays 14. I'll take out a checking account at Chemical first thing. Money. Shit. He opens his eyes, morning, first thing. The steps creak as he walks down, his leather-soled shoes tap on the metal edges. The air hits, a car passes and shoots exhaust up his nose, like a huge toke of something hot and lethal. He feels the skin expand and his nostrils open like a bellows. The sky's white. RVR just said the temperature's dropping fast. 50, 40 now, it's 36. Sonny Rollins picks it up with solo sax and starts G. Keith's commercial-free hour. Wow, beep, beep, a green VW screeches its toy-size wheels 5 feet away. He shakes his head sharply back and forth and eyes the irate woman waving her hand behind the wheel, waving it sharply like a smack, as if his face were right there close to her hand up against his face. First morning back in Brooklyn, maybe that's what I need, he thinks, as he takes Flatbush toward downtown, passing a mother and her young son, hand in hand, the boy's short afro still pressed flat against the side of his head where he slept last night. The boy yawns, falling a few paces behind his mother in a half-sleep, dried milk still on his lips from breakfast. His brown leather briefcase trails along last, carelessly grasped by the handle, the gold medal clasp undone, flap opened. George Washington, 1492, H2O plus CO2, carbon, carbohydrates, Murat Assad. I regret that I have but one life to live for my country. It was the worst of times, it was the best of times. George Washington Carver, peanuts. Sammy, would you get up on your feet and start moving? Forget about staying up late in front of that TV, then fooling around with your brother half into the night. Forget it. The wind's tugging at Pete's neck. He hunches his shoulders up and bends his head down, walking north toward the chemical bank, the Long Island Railroad, Abraham and Straus department store, Long Island University, the Brooklyn Bridge, the Hudson River. He pictures it already, the skyline dense as a full book of matches. The lights of every room in every office building all flicked on just about now. The whole book up in flames at once. In every office, the pervasive smell of coffee, thousands of hands grabbing mugs and paper cups. Up yours. Okay.
Some days, Dorothy Parker said, it's better than digging ditches. For Rebecca Brown. The United States is giving the Suez Canal back to Panama. It seems like only yesterday Tyrone Power was building it. Against all odds, I thought, at dinner. When B said suddenly, I hate my forehead, we all looked closer. But no, it was a perfectly normal forehead. When Nijinsky died, they cut open his feet to see the magical bone structure. Bird-like, though towards the last, he thought he was a horse, his legs, under the loose material, alluding to a headlong gallop away from inner states of terror. Jane Bowles in Paris writing, Dear Bupple, telling him, Alice Toklas admires your book tremendously, and Eudora Welty came over to dinner and is a great admirer of yours. As for her own work, Eudora had returned the copy, unable to finish it, and a friend in the hotel, a charming, brilliant girl called Natica, didn't like it either, really. The days go by. They give us more and more and more to lose. You lose. This is not always a tragedy. Beyond a certain point, it is impossible to live at face value. In the end, it will be the length of our extravagance that allows us to imitate at last the masculine impatience, the sea wedged like the chunk of some jewel between the shore and the horizon. Remember, it was only the low houses that made the men on horseback seem so important. Without passport, papers, or luggage, refusing to turn back at the border, we will merely say to the guards, let us pass. Greta Garbo made only 27 movies during her entire lifetime. Beatrix Potter hated children. Hawthorne wrote in his notebook, Herman Melville's linen is none too clean. Or as she said in a precocious letter shortly after the second novel, and to think of the grand affair I gave up for it, Lordy.
Okay, this one's called Doris. It's a stoop poem. The kids on my block used to hang out on the stoop and talk about everybody else after school. Talking about Doris in the after-school sun. Talking about cellars on the front stoop. Wondering about Doris and what she did down there with Floyd and J.T. What's the truth now, Doris? Talking about Doris. She walks onto the street 2 doors down. They call her name, but she doesn't turn around. Talking about Doris in the after-school sun. And this next one is was written in the Botanic Gardens in Brooklyn, one of my favorite places. It's called Last Fling. A man is turning over muddy soil and packing it down, a wet smack, the press of his black heel on the back end of the shovel. It's all over my body, like hair, this breeze so gentle yet significant. Sparrows pop through the grass, last fling before winter. I find tiny pine cones in perfect groups of 3, and the stone lady still joyously riding her open-mouthed fish. The day is crystal, it rings in my ears, cut into place, a small lake, a lily pad that floats on the water's surface, resting there, a thin green heart.
Poem for Fanny. This is terrible after that lyrical great poem. The baby bangs his forehead into the spoon. Usually I am speechless, struck dumb, encased in silence. A mysterious light chafes the snow to rose and chapped silk. Terrible fires burn in the Hollywood Hills. Sissy Spacek is interviewed. The danger of fire is just something we have to live with here. For years, she says, I've made sure all the hangers in my closets face in the same direction. The secret is knowing whether to laugh or to cry. In the doorway, the young Indian, drunk, swaying, bent double with laughter, choked, "Can you believe at the reservation I was the tribal counselor for problem drinkers?" Or when, just home from the hospital, with the newborn in her arms, she took a dizzy spell at the top of the stairs and toppled, head over heels. The older children at the bottom went alternately mad with giggles and wild with weeping. Saw her coming, a billowing flannel nightgown, flipping, now with a head, now without one, uttering ah, ah, and oof. M writes, I wait for someone to knock my broken heart for a new loop. K is certain that love is only a series of one-night stands. Don't talk to him on the phone, she said. It's bad enough to talk to friends. And yesterday at the doctor's office, a woman was saying to the receptionist, the Christmas specials are so scary this year, made to frighten little kids. Tomorrow night they have the 3 wise men landing from another planet. What do they want to go and ruin Christmas for? Earlier I read a passage that seemed to suggest the beauty of balance is to fall over.
Well, in honor of this occasion, I'm going to read a TV poem, which is kind of a takeoff on one that Paul Violi did. The numbers beforehand are the stations, the television stations. 9, racing from Belmont. 5, break the bank. 21, in search of the real America. 31, the new Indians. 7, people, places, things. David Rockefeller, chairman of the board of the Chase Manhattan Bank, guest. 31, romantic rebellion. 5, underdog. 7, American bandstand. 4, Vision Latina. 4, movie Exo-Man. A physics professor paralyzed by an attacker creates a special suit which gives him the mobility needed to track down his assailant. 5, movie The Voice of Terror, Basil Rathbone. 13, movie Rules of the Game. 50, The Age of Uncertainty. 50, The Man in the White Suit. 5, Black News. 9, Billy Graham. 21, The Korean Variety Hour. 11, Abbott and Costello. 11, The Honeymooners. 5, movie The Indestructible Man. 9, movie Jungle Woman. 2, Patchwork Family. 5, movie Hold That Baby. 4, Agriculture USA. 9, movie Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, international cast. 4, Land of the Lost. 11, Soul Alive.
It's a short one. Sort of a love poem. Titled Kissing Bridges. Kissing Bridges was the title that I picked for you for Christmas. A history of the American covered bridge, their dark interiors ideal for spooning. Buttermilk red, gray, and white, nostalgic symbols, loose floorboards, flapping. To me it seemed so perfect for us. I thought it meant 2 bridges kissed and the world stood still. Is it over?
Do we have more time? What,
4
read it
minutes, 3.5 minutes.
Read it
Oh,
out.
okay. No, go ahead. Do you have a short one?
Yeah, pretty. Okay. This has an epigraph. It goes like this: like the character in Moliere's play, who was delighted to find he had been talking prose all his life. It's called A Writer's Voice. It came just like that, squawking and flapping, a creature so naturally fluid, a holiday exploding from my mouth, complete with fireworks, Chinese lanterns made of pleated pink and lavender paper. It came like a piece of mail suddenly lain in the box by a godlike mailman. It came like a 2-bit coin gleaming in the sun in a wedge of sidewalk. It came from my mouth like a tooth I thought I'd lost or left under a lumpy pillow some cold childhood night in Brooklyn. It came spurting like white steam from a rusted pipe, long cold. It came like Jamaican rain, drenched to the skin in 1 hot minute. It came like a 2-bit coin.
Time? Is it? Okay. I'll read 2 short poems. This is for Ron Padgett. Monica. My aunt, who died at 42, had a little cabana in the heel of each shoe. And last poem title, So Tired. Setting up late, waiting for you, so tired. Book on the table, bug on my arm, dog in the hands of the sleeping farm, so tired. Introduce yourself.
Introduce herself.
This is Robin Messing.
This is Maureen Owen.
Okay, let's see.
Do you have something else to do?
I don't know. Do you?
Now we'll do a tap dance.
Okay.
I don't.
Anything that short. All right, this poem to piss everyone off.
Okay, good.
I had the feeling early this summer of discovering Gertrude Stein. I borrowed a copy of her selected writings from Dick and retired here to read them. I had this dazzling image of running through a wide, empty field towards her as she rose from a white rattan chair during her garden tea. As I gradually drew within less distance of her, I felt some of my initial exuberance give way, and just as I came abreast of her, I was stricken with such overwhelming boredom that I instantly kicked her cane out from under her and sped on by.
Yeah. Are we finished? Should we?
You got a minute or so?
Really?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have. All I have is some more story to read.
Read a paragraph.
Okay, here's a paragraph. Okay, it should be easy. We'll continue from where. It should be easy. I know mattresses. I've known mattresses all my life. Dad, the business, holidays, Christmas vacation, working 7 days straight. Besides, you can't beat 14,000. It's bound to be a cinch. Then I'll get out of that 2x4 room as soon as the commission starts coming in, when I know I've got something going. Shit, my nose is freezing, must be beet red. He bites on his chapped lip and tastes a drop of salty blood on his tongue. He smears it across his lip. With a left on Livingston, he heads toward the courts. He passes the Department of Labor, the Department of Social Services, a shoe store for extra wide widths, Red Cross shoes, puppies in a pet store window romping in newspaper, pressing their wet noses against the cold window panes. Okay?
Say goodbye, Bob.
So long from the happy trails of PAP Studios, where everything is done correct and the poems come out beautiful. Tonight's readers were Robin Messing and Maureen Owen.